Hey everyone, welcome back to Miniature Painting 101, a series of videos where I teach you everything and anything about miniature painting. Yes, this is part 46, pinning. I can't believe we're already at pinning. Should have been covered a long time ago, but it's a good time to cover it now. So let's start off with what exactly is pinning. You may have heard the term if you are familiar with building miniatures. Essentially, pinning is using metal pins, whether they be parts of paper clips or anything, or pins themselves, to reinforce bonds. It is typically done with metal miniatures since they are the heaviest and they require the most reinforcement to stay on. But you can do this with resin miniatures, and you can do it with plastic miniatures if you want as well. So today we will be pinning the arms and the face onto this model. It is a metal model from War Machine. And here's what you'll need to pin the model. First of all, you'll need super glue. Since you're using a metal model, you can't use plastic glue. You have to use super glue, such as this Gorilla Glue. It's basically for the metal models. You'll need a hobby drill. You'll need a bit that matches the size of the paper clip or whatever pin you use. So there's no specific size I will recommend. And also, of course, you need a paper clip. So whatever size, I typically go with medium-sized paper clips for metal because I really want that strong reinforced bond. And as I mentioned, basically the goal is to match your drill tip to a tiny bit larger than the paper clip. You can use calipers to measure, or just some trial and error on some sprues or something. And finally, you also need some green stuff, which will provide a temporary bond to the miniature when you're bonding these pieces together before the super glue takes over and with the pin reinforces that bond. And you'll of course need a metal miniature and some hobby clippers, which you'll use to clip not only trim the pieces off the miniature, but to trim the clippings to the exact length you need. So let's start off with, what I do is, for the arms and the face, I'm going to choose the very center of the arm socket, because that way it's a great, easy mark to hit. Just choose the center and drill in as far as you can. Remember, the deeper the drilling, the more reinforced the bond will be, but just make sure to drill in a good amount. And I'm going to do this on both arms and the face. So now you can see that the arms and the face have been drilled in the very center of each part. And they're in the center of each part, so that's great, and that's an easy mark to hit. And then we're going to repeat this process on the arm. So what we first do is put the arm in the socket and just gauge what angle do you want to drill the hole in the center of the arm piece. And then once you get the angle you want, just remember it. What I like to do is I like to take my hobby drill or a knife and just mark it on the center part, like what I'm doing right now, just forcing it in, leaving a mark so that way I know exactly where to drill at what angle. And then I just proceed to drill a hole into the arm. This takes a little bit of time, is why I'm speeding it up so much. And as you see now, I've got a decent sized hole in the part. And I'm going to repeat this process for both arms and the face. And that way I can just get a decent size. Once again, for the right arm, I gauge the angle I want and then drill a considerable size hole into it. Of course, when drilling, make sure to take your time and be very careful. Don't accidentally drill into your hand. And I just like to use this hobby drill because it's very precise, and it just you can control how fast you go. As you see, just getting a considerable size hole into the arm at the angle I want. And then I'm going to take a paper clip and I'm going to cut off about a 3/4 of an inch to about 3/4 of an inch, half an inch to 3/4 of an inch. And I will be shortening the length later once I gauge it. So then what I do is I take the arm. I like to put them onto the arm pieces typically. I like to glue it in first. So I just put some glue directly into the arm piece and then put my paper clip into it. And as I said, the closer the paper clip is in the size of the hole, the better, because then there's less wiggle room and it's just a stronger bond. And then if there's a little bit of wiggle room, I like to take it and just put it into the arm socket just to gauge the angle and to correct it before the super glue dries. And that way it is the exact angle that I want. And then I'm going to repeat this process with the right arm and the face. And that way we glue all the paperclip pieces into the arms. I always like to do it in the arm pieces first and then put the arm pieces into the sockets for the final gluing part. And I'll just do this once again with the face. So put a little glue in the hole, put in the paperclip at the correct angle, and let it dry entirely before proceeding to the next step. You can use an enhancer to make it dry quicker. So now the next part is pretty simple. Now it is just adjusting the length of the pin or paper clip to the length of the hole. So I'm just going to shorten the paper clip so that way when I put it into the socket, the pieces touch flush, but you want basically the longest distance possible. That way that you close the gap of the hole completely, but you want the pieces to touch each other and be flush with each other. You don't want a lot of wiggle room like you can see now. You don't want any wiggle room with it. You want the pieces to still touch each other and be flush with each other. That way the bond is completely reinforced and there's no gap between the pinned arm and the body. You want it to be completely touching. That way there's the most surface area possible to keep this bond as strong as possible. And remember, metal pieces are heavy and you don't want them accidentally breaking off. That's what the point of pinning is. And when they're the right length, what I do is I take a little bit of green stuff. Now this is an optional step, but what I do is I find that the green stuff provides a great temporary bond, and I just wrap it a little bit around the pin itself. Not a lot, as you'll see, because a lot will just stick out the arm, make it look a little silly. Add some super glue to the mix, and just simply put it into the socket of the arm. And then I hold it in place for a little bit of time. That way, make sure that it's completely, completely dry, and you're good to go. Basically, the green stuff is an epoxy putty, and it provides a great temporary hold while the super glue is drying, which doesn't take very long at all. As you can see here, I'm just holding it in place to make sure that the arm stays strong until it's completely dry, and then once it dries, the arm is going to be very well reinforced and the bond is going to be very strong. And now I'm going to do the opposite for the face. I'm going to put the green stuff directly on the face because it's a bit smaller, and add the super glue to the face, so you can do either option if you want, depending on the arm. And that's it. Now you see he's going to be completely strong. The arms and the face are in, and they are super strongly bonded. This pinning will keep this model together for years to come, and it is now very well stuck together, and that's what you essentially need to do for pinning. It's not a very complicated step, but it greatly reinforces and strengthens the bond between metal pieces of a miniature. So thank you so much for watching this episode of Miniature Painting 101, and I'm sorry it took me so long to do pinning. And stay tuned for part 47, which is just around the corner as always. But if you can't wait till next week, check out The Warp. Click on the link below for a free 14-day trial to my premium YouTube channel, where not only will we get to see the next 6 months worth of Miniature Painting 101 episodes, you'll get to see dozens of painting tutorials, battle reports, and just some awesome wargaming content. So go ahead and check out The Warp. I think you'll really love it. So thank you very much. And once again, until the next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.